Good day everyone, especially to you ma'am. I am April Joy H. Itok, the first reporter of Group 9, and I am going to talk about the protection through legal contracts.
Protection through legal contracts. Legal contracts define the rights and obligations of each party, especially important when relationships deteriorate. Contract law differs country, requiring firms to follow local standards. For instance, a Canadian firm operating in Belgium must adhere to the laws of both Belgium and Canada, as well as the evolving laws of European Union, which may supersede Belgian law.
Legal contracts protect individuals and businesses by clearly defining rights, obligations, and expectations, reducing ambiguity and providing a legal framework for recourse if terms are breached, ensuring fair transactions, safeguarding sensitive information like with NDA, and outlining processes for dispute resolution, ultimately offering financial security and fostering trust. Legal contracts protect parties by defining clear expectations, outlining responsibilities, setting payment terms, and providing remedies for breaches, using example like non-disclosure agreement or NDA. For confidentiality, service agreement for project scope, and partnership agreement for business structure, all preventing disputes and ensuring accountability through clauses for payment, termination, and dispute resolution. And second topic is the conciliation.
Conciliation. Conciliation is the least adversarial, involving negotiation facilitated by a conciliator.
Conciliation is a voluntary, confidential alternative dispute resolution process where a neutral third party or conciliator helps conflicting parties communicate, understand each other's perspective, and reach mutually acceptable agreement without imposing a decision. It focuses on perceiving relationships and is more flexible than formal legal proceeding. Next is the arbitration.
Arbitration involves a neutral third party who decides in favor of one party, saving time and expense compared to litigation.
Arbitration is a formal alternative dispute resolution or ADR process where a neutral third party or arbitrator or tribunal hears arguments and evidence from both sides, then issues binding or non-binding decisions called like award. To resolve the conflict, typically outside of court, it is often faster, less formal, and more confidential than litigation, and parties usually agree to it in advance via contract clause. Litigation.
Litigation is the most adversarial, involving lawsuits, and is most common in the United States, while other countries prefer arbitration and conciliation.
Litigation is a formal, adversarial, legal process where disputes are resolved through the court system, covering all stages from pre-trial, preparation, to post-trial appeals in both civil and criminal case. And the last topic is the nature of government intervention.
The nature of government intervention. Government intervene in trade and investment to achieve political, social, or economic objectives, often creating trade barriers that benefit specific interest groups like domestic firms and labor unions. A key rationale is to create jobs by protecting industries from foreign competition, Government intervention alters the competitive position of companies and industries as well as the status of citizens.
The nature of government intervention refers to the ways and reason governments step in to influence or regulate economic, social, or political activities that are otherwise driven by the private individuals, businesses, or market forces. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Its form, scope, and goals vary based on a country's political system, economic ideology, and specific societal need. And that's all, and we're going to proceed to the next reporter.
My name is Maria Celeste Cabiara and this is my topic, Rationale of Government Intervention. Why does a government intervene in trade and investment activities? There are four main motives. First, tariff and other forms of intervention can generate substantial revenue. Kung naglagay ang gobyerno ng tariff means buwis sa mga inaangkat na produkto. Kumikita ito sa bawat produktong pumapasok sa bansa. Ginagamit ang kita na ito para punduhan ang mga serbisyong tulad na lang ng edukasyon, kalusugan at iba pa. Example, kung pinapatawan ng buwis ang pag-angkat ng bakal, kumikita ang gobyerno mula sa bawat shipment. Second, intervention can ensure the safety, security, and welfare of citizens. Government regulate trade to protect people from harmful or dangerous products. They may ban unsafe food, control the entry of illegal items, or set strict product standard. Example, ban imported toys with toxic materials, protect children's health. Intervention help government pursue economic, political, or social objectives. Trade politics can be used to create jobs, encourage investment, or support a country's development goals. Government may offer subsidies to local industry or limit foreign competition so that domestic companies can grow. Example, giving tax incentive to foreign inventors to create more employment opportunity. Last is intervention can help better serve the interests of a nation, firm, and industry. Sometimes, local industry need protection from stronger foreign competitors. By enforcing tariff on government allow the domestic businesses to develop and become more competitive. Example, protecting local farmers by limiting cheap imported agricultural products. Defensive rationale. Four major defensive motives are particularly relevant. Protection of the nation economy. 2 is protection of an infant industry. 3. National securities and national culture and identity. Of the nation economy. The government may restrict import to protect local businesses and workers from foreign competition. When cheaper foreign goods enter the market, local companies may struggle or close. By limiting import or increasing tariff, the government help local industry survive and keep jobs within the country. Example, limiting imported rice to protect local farmers. So, ang sample ani is ang mag-limit jud ta sa mga imported bitaw na bugas, labi na sa mga farmer or sa mga gamit sa mga farmer. So limit jud ta, dili jud ta yung na basta-basta na lang ng go. Charis. Number 2 is protection of an infant industry. Infant industry means bagong industriya. Bagong industriya, young, are development industries that are not yet strong enough to compete with established foreign companies. The government protects this industry until they grow, become stable, and are capable for facing global competition. So, ang bagong industriya, so napadyo din ang mga ang bagong industriya means dili pa jud bitaw enough na strong jud ang bagong industriya. So kinahanglan pa jud sila protect sa mga government aron sila mo grow jud ila ang business or mahimo jud sila stable, then na din kanang kabalo na din sila mo atubang sa tanang mga competition. Example, giving support or tax break to a new local tech manufacturing industry. Number 3, national security. Some industries are essential for a country's safety, such as food supply, energy, weapon, or communication system. The government restricts foreign involvement in this industry to avoid dependence on other countries, especially during conflict or emergencies. Example, limiting foreign ownership in a telecommunication or military equipment. Number 4, national culture and identity. Government may protect industry or a product that represent a nation culture, tradition, or heritage. This prevents foreign goods, media, or influence from dominating and replacing local cultural identity. Example, promoting local film, music, or traditional craft by restricting too much foreign media. So, example sa mag-promote sa mga promotion and protection of the national economy. So, further believe that local companies dinlan na ako ni siya basahon kay makita raman na siya sa ako ang report. Sa explanation about protection of the national economy. Government try to protect their economy when local companies fear losing to cheaper foreign competitors. Working worry about losing jobs to countries with lower wage. Actives demand trade barrier to stop the entry of cheap products. They believe this prevent local companies from shutting down. Number 2, protection of an infant industry. Di na sa dako ni basa ang diretsyon ako explanation. An infant industry is a new, developing, and weak industry. So, weak siya, hina. In lack technology and experience, introduce less and cannot compete with a big foreign companies. Government protect this industry temporarily by enforcing tariff, limiting foreign competitors' products, supporting local companies. They give young industry time to grow strong and competitive. Meaning, temporary protection helps new industry develop until they can compete globally. That's all. Thank you.
I am June Mary B. Buongan, and I am the third reporter. So, I will be talking about national security. National security, that countries put trade restrictions on products to national security and defense, like military, tech, and computers to support domestic production of security-related goods, and also additional measures. Restrict trade of goods that cater to security or defense, like military equipment or specialized computers, to avoid dependence on other nations and prevent sensitive items from being misused. They also add extra rules like export license or bans. Export controls. Government measures intended to manage or prevent export of certain products or trade with certain countries. Export controls are government rules that limit or stop sale, shipment, or transfer of weapons of mass destruction or promoting human rights. Example, U.S. controls on nuclear technology. The U.S. strictly limits exports of equipment and materials used to make nuclear energy or weapons. Only approved countries can get them, and only with a special license to ensure they're not used for military purpose. National culture and identity. To protect elements like key occupations, industries, and public assets that define a nation's culture and identity, governments may use trade barriers like tariffs or quotas to limit imports that might harm things central to their country's culture and identity. For example, France has long imposed tariffs on imported foreign films and required cinemas to show French-made movies for a certain number of weeks or each year. This protects its thriving film industry, a key part of French culture and national identity, from being drowned out by Hollywood blockbusters. Offensive rationale. Offensive rationales for government intervention fall into two categories. There are national strategic priorities and increasing employment. National strategic priorities. As a proactive take on infant industry policy, government intervention aims to foster high-tech, high-value adding industries like IT, pharma, and finance that create better jobs and higher tax revenues than low sectors, promoting savings for loanable funds and funding education to build necessary skills. This is a proactive twist on protecting a new industries. Governments step in to grow high-tech, high-value sectors like IT or pharma because they create better job and more tax money than low-value work like basic manufacturing. They use tools like funding investments, encouraging savings for loans, and supporting education to build the skills needed for these industries to thrive. For example, Singapore has long prioritized growing its biopharma sector as national strategic goal. The government has provided billions in grants for research facilities, offered tax breaks to attack global pharma companies, set up programs to boost savings for business loans, and funded university courses in biotechnology and medicine. Today, biopharma is one of Singapore's top high-value industries, creating thousands of well-paid jobs and driving significant tax revenue. So, I will not discussing the increasing employment, but the next reporter will continue. Thank you.
So good day everyone. So today I'm going to discuss about the increasing employment. So the government sometimes block imports to protect local industries. So there are some certain mga businesses na ang government nila mismo is prohibited na mudawat og mga imports. It's because dili naman din to protect sa ilang mga local industries kay pag mostly man good pag na mga imported products so mas ganahan and mas patok sa masa, which is not good para sa mga local industries. So this helps domestic companies sell more and hire more workers, creating jobs. So pag dara lang sa certain nga area, like for example sa China, it requires foreign companies to team up with local firms to enter the market, which also provides job for the Chinese workers. Pag locals lang siya, pag focus lang siya sa locals, so daghan kaayong mababa ang mga kwan sa mga unemployment rate, then ay daghang jobs nga ma-offer para sa mga tao sa isa ka country if ginakuan lang nila ang mga local brands and mga local industries lang nila. So next is we have this instrument of government intervention. So we have these tariffs and non-tariffs. So to make it short, tariffs are specific taxes that the government charges on goods imported from other countries. Muna siya ang ginatawag nato na buwis. So if ever na may mga imported na products na maabot sa country, ipasulod sa atua, so magbayad sila og buwis. It's either bisag unsa nga kind of tariffs, it's because naman siya different kinds of tariffs. So and then we also have this non-tariff trade barriers or other rules or restriction that limits imports without adding a tax. So naapod siya kung ang tariffs kay mag-involve siya money, kay kinahanglan nimo siya bayaran. Ang non-tariff trade barriers nagyap siya involvement na money, but dili kayo siya it's about money, it's about rules or restrictions bitaw sa isa ka country. So ginaano ni nila mo nila ang principals instruments sa government. And the next is the tariffs. So naari 7 types of tariffs, and number 1 is this export tariff. So an export tariffs is a tax for goods that are sold to other countries. So muna siya ang mga tax nga goods coming into the country, muna siya ang kanang sometimes used to control exports or generate revenue, but many countries do not use them. Like for example, the government charges $10 per tons of coal exported to other countries to regulate exports and generate revenue. Yeah, although na sila halin maka-generate isang revenue, it's because ilang gipagawas ang isa ka product gikan sa ilang country. So ang government kay magkuan siya kanang magbayad sila og $10 per ton of coal sa uling para maka-export sila dito sa other country. And then para of course maka-generate siya og revenue ang halin. Kasi dili kayo patok sa ila ato nga kuan na certain product mo nang gina-export na lang nila. So if ang export tariff is gikan sa atuang atong ikuan sa ila, ang import tariffs naman is gikan sa ila ay pasulod sa atuang country. So these are the tax or goods coming into a country. It makes imported products more expensive, which can help protect local businesses and industries. Kay instead na magkuan pa sila manggod og mga imported products, kay syempre pag imported na siya tax, sumadungagan na ang presyo. Instead na example tag 100 pesos lang to siya, may mo na siyang 120, it's because naamangod naay ginabayaran nga tax ang kana nga business. And then like for example, this is the example, a country charge 15% tax on imported smartphones to make local phones more competitive. So para ang mga tao is mo avail lang atong mga local brands, local product lang sa tua, dili kato na lang ilang ganahan kay it's because kung mo avail pa sila itong mga imported na mga products or like for example imported na cellphones, mahal na siya kaayo, or in fact nga naman say barato. And the next is we have this specific tariffs or a fixed amount of tax charged for each unit of a product. So example kanang $10 for every piece of clothing imported. So if ever na ipasulod na product, for example ang isa ka country nagpadala siya og 100 pieces na kuan, 100 pieces na clothes or example mga or other any product, then bawat isa ana niya is gina-count na siya, so 100 man to ka buok. So kung i-charge siya og kuan $10 per cloth, day mahimo na siya ang 1,000, so dagdag na siya. So magkamahal na pod, instead na ang baligya lang is 20 pesos, mahimo na siyang siguro 25 something, kaya agi sa gibayaran na pod nila nga specific tariffs. And the next is the revenue tariffs, a tax imposed mainly to generate income for the government. It usually set a low rate to bring in money without discouraging trade. Like for example, 2% tax on imported shoes mainly to earn revenue. So, pag we talk about revenue, so syempre halin. So, if ever nga natay halin, kinahanglan sa nato na naabot siya ka ng buwis na kinahanglan bayaran. And the next is the protective tariffs, a tax added to imported goods to make them more expensive, encouraging people to buy local products and protect local businesses. So, diri sa protective tariffs kay it talks about na po siya sa mga imported goods. Muna siyang mamahal jud sa ang mga imported na products kaysa sa mga local brands na to. It's because dagan kay sila kinanglan bayaran. Like for example, 20% tax and foreign clothing to encourage buying local apparels. So instead na magpalit ka atong mga Hermes na clothing or mga mahal kaayo nga mga imported products, so dili na lang katoy mong paliton, magpalit na lang kag like mga locals, like for example, Dior, imported product siya, so mahal kaayo. So instead na Dior mong paliton, di mo pa talaga itong mga Lamela ba, mga local products lang ang imong gina-avail. So we also have this prohibited tariffs, which means a very high tax or ban makes importing a product almost impossible, stopping it from entering the country. Like for example, kanang mga Ferrari, mga BMW nga mga sakyanan, mga nana, as in grabe lisod jud kay na siya pasudlon diri sa Philippines, kay samot na diri sa tuwa kay dako jud kay na siya kinanglan nila bayaran na tax. Like for example, maabot pa sa point na 300% tariffs on luxury cars to prevent their import. So para kuan na jud bitaw ang mga piliyon bitaw paliton lang sa mga tao is ang mga local brands lang bitaw, kay grabe jud kamahal ang mga imported products. And then you also have this harmonized tariffs or harmonized code, which means a standardized system of numbers and description used worldwide to classify product in trade. So it helps countries know exactly what is being imported or exported and apply the correct tariffs. So this is the example of harmonized code schedule presented in the screen. So like for example, ang kana siya sa coffee and not roasted. So the 09 means it talks about coffee. So mao na siya ang nadiha sa HS code. And then ang 01 or 11 means not roasted. And then the tariff rate na adara 5% na siya. Kung ang meat naman is 10%. Kana siyang mga first digit kay mo na siya ang kanang mga classification bitaw, like clothing ba na siya, it's either clothing na siya or food or whatever it is. So next is we have this significant source of revenue for the government. So to make this video more shorter, kay ginaano na lang nako siya. Ako na lang siyang gi-paste sa screen. It's because kuan na kaayo kanang taas na din kaayo siya. So we have this tariff, quota, local content requirements, regulation and technical standard, administrative and bureaucratic procedures, FDI and ownership restrictions, subsidy, countervailing duty, and anti-dumping duty. And then let's go with the non-tariff trade barriers. So the non-tariff trade barriers are tools government use to limit or control international trade without charging extra charge or tariffs. So instead of raising prices directly to taxes, they set rules and restrictions that make it harder or more expensive for foreign goods to enter the country. So naay mga uban na mga country nga gina-impose bitaw ning inani. It's because para ma-prevent kay nilang pagsulod og daghan kay nga mga imported products, kay matabunan na manggudayon ang mga local products or local brands nila if ever nga sige lang sila gadawat and easy ra kayong mag-import og products sa ilaang country. So we have these quotas. So ang quotas means limits on the number of amount of a certain product that can be imported each year. So like for example, kana nga certain countries mudawat lang sila og 10,000 cars annually. So each year dapat 10,000 lang ilang limit. So kung wala pa na human ang year, then naabot na siya 10,000, so dili na sila mudawat pa og other imported products. And then ang import licensing, requiring foreign companies to get permission before selling goods into the country. This process can delay or discourage imports. Manong ma-delay and maka-discourage og import siya? It's because gasto kayo ang pagkuha aning import licenses. Daghan kayo kinanglan kuhaon nga mga papers, daghan kayong ang dapat lihukon. So maunang when it comes sa mga imported product, mahal jud siya. It's because grabe jud ilang effort ana kay para lang siya makuha, and then ang gasto sa nila ilang mga napagawas na kwarta. And then also we also have this local content requirements, rules that force companies to use a certain percentage of local materials or labors. For example, a law might require 50% of a product to be made locally. Like for example, naay muna diri na din nag-exist ang like mura siyang partnership bitaw. Like kani nga country kay siya iyaaning 50% ani nga product, then kani nga country pod is iyaapod ang 50%. So para mag-bound sila to make one product, then ila yung Kay para manggod local ra gyapon ng 50% nila na gyapon earnings ang ila ang country. Although mahimo siyang imported, it's because gikan kumbaga sa ila lang gikan ang ingredients or something nga gamiton ana nga product, then ilang dala didto ato nga certain country, then ayha din siya sila na dayon may magama ato mag-produce ato, and then mabalik na pud siya didto. So naara gyapon siya kanang 50%. So maano ra gyapon, naara gyapon sila revenue, maka-generate sila and maka-income sad sila also. And then we also have this government regulation, so there is strict safety, quality, or technical standard that foreign products must meet, which can be costly or difficult to comply with. Kaya like for example, pag dili nimo ma-meet ang standard nila, gina-check nila na yung mga product, mga imported goods na imong gina-deliver sa ilang country. So niglantaw nila nga wala na meet ilang standard, so dili jud na pwede nila ibaliga dito sa ilang country. So sayang kaayo kay syempre nagpagawas og kwarta, and then gasto kayo then man dili ra day siya mahalin is because agi lang sa ilang mga government regulations. And then we also have these administrative procedures, which means complex custom procedures or paperwork or infections to slow down or increase the cost of importing goods. Example ani niya kanang pagkuha og license para kanang import licensing. So kani siya example ni siya sa administrative procedures. So kanang inigkuha ato niya daghan pa kay kinahanglan. So kuha na lang to make this kanang basic lang is pagkuha og kanang lisensya sa motor. Like kinahanglan di ba mag-ano pa ka sa LTO, imo pang kuhaon ng mga ilang mga requirements, daghan pa kay sa nga tanan, napay mga exams and everything dira. Munang kwan jud samot jud ka gastuin, samot jud ka mahal, and then munang mostly dili na halos mo dili na lang mag-import ang isa ka country ana kung inana kataas ang mga standard sa other countries nga ganahan unta nila nga imported sa ilang mga products. And then we also have this quota. Some quotas are limited by the government on how much of a certain product can be imported into the country. Like for example lang lagi ka, like what I said kaganina, kung ang isa ka country kay limit lang sa ila ang 10,000 cars annually, so dili jud na siya pwede malapat, so dapat 10,000 ra. So sometimes the government asks companies to agree to the voluntary export retrains, where companies agree to send fewer products to the country voluntarily. So instead na like for example ang ilang kuan nato dito, ang ilang product atong ilang hato dito is 100. Kanya kay dili naman siya pwede kay basin di ay 9,950 na ang kuan dito niya, 100 ang cars na na-import na dito nga product niya. 100 ilang ganan isulod dito, so mo na ato na lang 50 na lang ilang i-import dito nga cars, kay kuan naman naabot naman siya sa 10,000. Di naman siya pwede mulapas kay mo man na naman sila limit na sila quota ang certain country. So these import licenses, official permission that companies need to buy before they can import a certain goods. So kinahanglan nga makakuha gid sila ani aya sila maka-import og mga product mo ni siya. Ang kanang permission mo ni siyang ang kanang ilang paper nga mabutang dito nga pwede sila mag-import og product ana nga country. And then so in short, quotas and import licenses are ways of government can limit or control how much foreign goods comes into the country, often making it difficult or expensive for companies to import goods. So munang inana ila bitong way kay para malimit sad, and then of course sayang pud ilang mga local brands kung magsige lang sila dawat og mga imported products. So that is the reason why daghan kay sila gipang impose na law, mga tariffs, mga in everything dira na naka-difficult and naka-make expensive sa mga imported products. Yes. So that's all.
Hello, my name is J. Lester Eduhinog, and your reporter of Group 9, and let me discuss about consequences and evolution of government intervention. Government intervention plays an important role in international trade and economics growth. Lower trade barriers encourage global trade, increase income, and help reduce poverty. Countries with greater economic freedom usually grow faster because people can work, produce, and invest more easily. However, some government intervention is still needed to protect vulnerable sectors, support workers, and stabilize key industries. There are positive and negative effects of intervention. Positive effects can protect local jobs, provide subsidies and training programs for disabled displaced worker, correct harmful economics impact on the poor. The negative effects is excessive trade barriers limit global commerce. Overprotection can make industries inefficient and uncompetitive. Raises ethical issues, especially in developing economics. Historical evolution of trade policies. Early 20th century, high protectionism trade barriers were high, worsened by World War and Great Depression. The 1930 U.S. Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act raised tariff to over 50%, causing other countries to retaliate. Global trade collapse, harming economies worldwide. And here are a few example of tariffs. United States and Europe. After U.S. passed the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, European countries raised tariffs on American goods, which reduced export and hurt farmers and factories on both sides. Canada retaliated by putting higher taxes on U.S. product and shifted its trade to Britain, instead lowering U.S.-Canada trade. Global impact. Many countries raised tariffs to protect local industries but caused international trade to shrink, business to close, and unemployment to rise worldwide. Creation of GATT and global tariff reduction. In 1947, 23 nations formed the GATT, aimed to reduce trade barriers and prevent protection policies. GATT negotiated continuous tariff reduction, monitored global trade, and settled disputes. Introduced the most favored nation principle. GATT later evolved into the World Trade Organization, or WTO. In 1995, expanding to about 150 members and achieving major reduction in global trade barriers. Different nation development paths. Import substitution. Countries in Latin America and other developing regions tried replacing imports with local production through high tariffs and heavy subsidies. These industries remained uncompetitive, required continuous support, and failed to raise living standards. Exports lead development. East Asian countries, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and South Korea choose to build industries focused on export. This created strong global trade links, improved living standards, built competitive economies, and Japan also applied a similar strategy after World War II, supporting infant industries and until they become global leaders. Economic reforms in India and China. India followed restrictive socialist-style economy until 1990s. They then gradually opened to trade and investment. Progress has been slow and many barriers still in place. China, after decades of centralized planning, began reform in the late 1970s. Joining APEC and the WTO accelerated and growth, making it a leading export and global economic power. Government intervention during financial crisis. The recent global financial crisis revealed the danger of weak regulations. Government responded by strengthening financial laws, increasing monitoring of banks, calling for more transparency and reduced speculation. Some countries also increased protectionist policies to protect jobs. How firms can respond to government intervention. Companies cannot simply avoid countries with trade barriers because many import industries, such as petroleum, biotechnology, and pharmaceuticals, operate in heavily regulated environment. Managerial strategies continues monitor and research government policies. Adjust investment decision based on risk and cost. Develop develop long-term strategies to deal with protectionism.